Have you ever wondered where you stand in America's wealth and income hierarchy? Today, we're breaking down the 6 levels of wealth and income in the US using the latest data from the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances. If you're new here, my name is Alice. I'm a chartered professional accountant and I talk everything about personal finance and business on this channel. Do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow, and let's get into it. So first of all, it's important to differentiate between net income and net worth. Net income is the total amount of money earned by an individual or a family in a year, while net worth is total assets minus total liabilities. So net income is what you and I pay on tax each year, and net worth is based on assets that we own and debts that we have. So as you can see here on screen, the Federal Reserve breaks down net worth into 6 levels. Now at the base, we have the bottom percentage of households. In 2022, the median net worth here was $14,000. Median income in this group is $21,000. Now, many in this group face financial challenges with limited assets and in many cases, much more debts than assets. The US Census Bureau comes up with poverty thresholds every year in the US based on size of family, as you can see on screen here. And they also prepare an annual report that estimates the economic well-being of households, families, and individuals. And according to the US Census, the official poverty rate in 2022 was 11.5%, with an estimated 37.9 million people that are in poverty. Typically, people in this group, they will rely on government-funded programs such as Social Security, unemployed insurance benefits, public assistance benefits, and workers' compensation benefits. Next up is the lower middle class, which comes in at 5 times more net worth than the previous group. Households in this group had a median net worth of approximately $71,000. Now, in this group, these people typically earn just above the poverty threshold, but maybe not enough consistently for financial comfort. The median income in this group is $44,800. Now, the most understood classification of people in this group are what we call blue-collar workers or people with lower white-collar jobs. These are usually hourly wage earners or salaried employees without bonuses or stock options. They may own a modest home or rent in affordable neighborhoods. And for this group, budgeting tends to be a necessity because they typically have little to no disposable income for emergencies or luxuries, and they may have to rely on public transportation or used vehicles. A couple more classifications of people in this group: they tend to have high sensitivity to financial shocks. So this includes unexpected medical bills, car repairs, losing their jobs. They may have low savings rate with many living paycheck to paycheck and are also likely to have high amounts of consumer debt. So this includes payday loans and high interest debts like credit cards. And financially, they may feel squeezed and maybe not poor enough for needing aid, as in the first group, but also not wealthy enough for consistent comfort. Next is the heart of America, or what we call the middle class. Now, the middle class has a median net worth of around $159,000, and these households do typically have assets, including retirement accounts and equity in their homes. But most of their net worth is largely tied to home equity and retirement accounts, and the median income in this group is $71,000. People in this group may own a home, may contribute to 401ks or IRAs. By the way, I recently made a video breaking down the difference between traditional and Roth 401ks and IRAs. Video up top there if you'd like to take a look. People in the middle class do have debts. These debts tend to be more manageable and are things like mortgages and car loans. People in the middle class, they tend to avoid high interest consumer debts and are usually employed in stable white collar or skilled blue collar jobs. They typically require dual income to sustain their middle class lifestyle, and they have access to benefits like health insurance and paid time off. They may own a home in a suburban or a semi-urban area, and they may drive newer used cars or affordable new vehicles. And they also can afford occasional vacations, eating out, brand name products, though budgeting may still be necessary. Education tends to be valued in this group as many people have college degrees, and they see education as a path to upward mobility in life. The middle class is also known to help save for children's educations. At the same time, their net worth may still be vulnerable to market downturns or medical emergencies. They may feel pressure from the rise cost of living, housing, education, and they tend to worry about retirement readiness despite their efforts to save money. Next up, we have the upper middle class, which has a median net worth of $307,000. Now, people in this group often have more investments, multiple income streams, and more, if not substantial, property holdings. Otherwise, what we call investment accounts, real estate, and retirement funds. Now, typically, people in this group are debt leveraged by choice, which means that they use debt to help them increase their net worth, and they're not engaging in high interest debts. So these are your high income professionals: doctors, lawyers, engineers, executives, business owners. Median income in this group is $115,000, and dual income households can have combined salaries of between $150 to $400K. People who are in this group earn both active income, whether it's through salary or for business, and they may also have investments that generate them passive income. They tend to live in suburban and metro areas. They may drive a late model, luxury, or premium vehicle. This is a group that's actually very susceptible to lifestyle creep, because it's when they start to earn enough and have enough money to buy nice things, and higher income is always tend to be matched by higher spending. So while having more money is great, money management is really important for this group, because they can still feel squeezed by taxes, tuition, housing, especially if they live in higher cost cities or urban areas. But those in this group are typically concerned with wealth preservation and generational planning. Now, moving on to those of what we call the upper class, and those are people with median net worth of approximately $3.8 million, or what we call millionaires. These households, they have quite a bit of financial freedom. This is where the term financial freedom starts to come in, okay? Because these households, they do enjoy considerable financial freedom. They should have extensive investment portfolios and assets, and their wealth, that $3.8 million, tends to come from a mix of things. These are stocks, business ownership, real estate portfolio, trusts, and maybe even private equity. But one key thing is they have low dependence on earned income, because they rely on their money to make them more money. So while many of them do have high income, and statistically their income often exceeds $400,000, many of them are also not reliant on their wages, because they earn money through things like dividends, capital gains, real estate, business profits. These are your entrepreneurs, your investors, your C-suite executives. They may own multiple properties, vacation homes, investment rentals. What they're really concerned about is wealth preservation, not just accumulation. So they've made the money, they need to make sure they can keep the money and pass the money down. And how they do that is through things like trusts, right? Tax optimization strategies and other asset protection vehicles. Because we use the phrase financial freedom to define this group, people in this group are typically disconnected from middle class concerns like cost of living, student debt, or job security. Next, we have the top 1%. People in the 1%, they have a staggering share of the nation's wealth. Now, this group, also what we call the inner circle or the elite group, they tend to hold influence over the economy and society in general. And how they earn money is typically from assets that generate income, capital gains, business ownership, investment portfolios, again, rather than wages. But these are people that you see in the news, okay? Maybe you see them on social media. They own boats, yachts. They tend to own multiple properties, luxury vehicles, and access to exclusive services. Now, this is not spoken as much, especially on social media, but many people in the top 1% do engage in philanthropy, right? They contribute to various causes, establishing foundations, and they typically do get a tax benefit for doing so as well. And generally speaking, have a preference for privacy and discretion, right? Their wealth tends to be managed by other people through trusts, family offices, and they definitely have a concern for security, privacy, and discretion. Now, why does an understanding of these different levels matter? Because wealth determines more than just comfort. Wealth shapes opportunity, it impacts education, health, even your life expectancy. So consider this: the average family in the top 10% saw their wealth grow 13 times faster than those in the bottom 15% over the last 3 decades. That's not just inflation, right? It's the compounding system of investments, assets, and financial literacy that most schools and society never teach. It tends to be a common assumption that top 1% got lucky, they were born into generational wealth, but many of these people, they're simply playing by a different set of rules, but it doesn't mean that the rest of us can't learn from them. So what actually builds wealth in America? It's not just income. Income is just one part of it. A big part of it, and I speak about this a lot on the channel, is owning things that grow in value: real estate, stocks, and businesses. Even in the Federal Reserve's own data, the wealthiest families, they had a much higher percentage of their assets in financial investments, not just in cash or in home equity. A lot of Americans, they tend to get stuck in what's called the comfort trap. which means that they earn a decent income, they buy a home, they maybe save a little bit, but they're not pushing themselves or investing aggressively. And over time, inflation and rising costs eat away at your net worth as well. Let's talk about the correlation between net income and net worth. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, they're not the same thing. But what about correlation? Now, if we look at the same Federal Reserve report, you will see that as average income goes up, average net worth also goes up as well. One difference here between the two is age, because while net worth is usually positively correlated with age, it's not necessarily the case with income. And that's because income doesn't always translate into net worth, because it requires you to be good with money management and savings. And one thing I learned as a CPA is that you can actually be in the upper class and have relatively low income if you choose to do so, if you don't want to pay tax and you have a relatively modest lifestyle. So a couple of examples here. Let's say we have a tech software engineer or a tech worker. They're earning $200,000 a year. They might only have a net worth of $100,000 because they are young, they still have student loans, and they live in a city like San Francisco where rent is very, very high. On the other hand, we may have a retired teacher who's a little bit older. They may earn $50,000 a year from their pension or their job, and this person might have $1 million of net worth after years and years of very good financial habits, as well as putting money into their mortgage and saving. So as you're watching this video, you might be wondering, how do I move up to the next level? But here's the truth, right? Moving from one level to the next level takes a lot of intention. And it's not just about working harder, working more hours, and working longer. It is more than just getting a raise at work. It's understanding money management and working smarter with your money. Getting into the upper class or even the top 1% requires investing either in the markets or in business, because you can only earn so much when your income is limited to your time, and your net worth can only grow by so much if it's all tied into the home that you live in. So things like watching out for lifestyle creep, understanding tax optimization and wealth building strategies, understanding how to build an investment portfolio of stocks and real estate, understanding how to make good decisions with calculated risks, debt, and leverage so that your assets and your portfolio can grow on its own, and you can eventually pass down your wealth to your kids and your grandkids. So identifying what class you're currently in, and then understanding the habits that people in the next step adopt, and understanding how people in the next step think about money, assets, and investments, that'll help you determine what you need to do to get there. Generally speaking, moving from one step to another step requires you to have a good understanding of financial literacy, always earning more than you spend and being cash flow positive, saving money, right? No matter how much you make, you still have to save, investing early and investing often. So I talk about dollar cost averaging in a previous video that I made, which I'll leave up top here. The sooner you can get into the markets, the better, because it makes a huge difference, right? To own appreciating assets that are generating dividend income, interest income, that are increasing in value, and eventually getting to a point where you know how to use debt strategically, not recklessly, right? Leverage is how a lot of people make a lot of wealth in this world. And I make videos on all of these subjects, which I will leave more links to in the description if you want to learn more. If you love this video today, you're going to love my other video on how to get your finances in order in the next 6 months. In that video, I talk about all of the accounts that you should consider setting up. This includes your workplace sponsored retirement accounts as well as IRAs. I give a lot of tips in that video on how to split up your paycheck, what money should go into what accounts. Make sure you drop a like on this video and hit me with a comment below on what you thought about these different levels of wealth, where you're currently at, and what you're doing to get to the next stage. See you guys in the next video. Until next time.